Hello there, I'm Christine Devine.
And I'm Roxy Carpadian. We are expecting to hear from LA Mayor Karen Bass any moment now.
Mayor Bass expected to make an announcement about the city's massive rebuilding effort. There you see her meeting there with, looks like, Public Works people, employees there. She's in West LA at a Public Works building.
So we didn't have a presser this morning, as we've been having every morning at 8 o'clock to hear from local, state, and federal officials. And we said we would do these pressers on a needed basis, and it looks like here it is, and here we go.
Yesterday I was with Captain Silverman in the Palisades area, and even though we've seen the devastation every day on TV, I've seen it from in a helicopter, the devastation is just unthinkable. I walked through the area and I saw what were homes. I saw playground equipment where children have been, and I think through this tragedy we haven't talked much about the children. But I think about kids that left their home expecting to come back and not being able to, and how challenging that must be to explain to your children or your grandchildren that what they knew as home is gone. But you know, I am hopeful that we are turning the corner. I know that Monday and Tuesday will be concerned that the Santa Anas are going to come back, but I am hopeful that it will not be anywhere near the severity that we saw in the beginning of this. But my message to Los Angeles is that after the fires are out definitively, there is no greater priority than getting people back home. And the first step to that are crews that are working tirelessly to lift evacuation orders. But I want to be very clear about this, because the decisions about lifting evacuation orders will be done by public safety officials, and it's going to be based on safety and danger. Yesterday and today, some evacuation orders will be lifted, and I want to thank our firefighters for that. Other zones are going to take longer. There's lots of hazardous waste, and I could see that yesterday. You could see paint cans, you could see batteries from electric vehicles, gas leaks, and more. But the EPA hazard teams are already deployed. As our army of firefighters kills these fires and withdraws, we will be moving in with an army of builders, like the people and equipment that you see here. I know there is so much frustration, because when people know that one side of the street, houses might be destroyed, the other side of the street, houses intact, and why can't they get home? This is an unprecedented natural disaster, and it warrants an unprecedented response. We are going to do everything we can to clear the way so that people can get back home. This means that we're going to have to reorganize government around urgency, a common sense, and compassion. And we will do everything we can to get Angelenos back home. I've done and will be doing and rolling out next week a series of executive directives to do just that. Working in connection with our city council, many city council members have put forward motions. We're going to be collaborating on that, because some of those motions can get done quicker by turning them into executive directives. But I will tell you that this is why I have appointed Steve Soboroff to serve as the Chief Recovery Officer for the City of Los Angeles for Phase 1 of us building back LA Strong. For those of you in Los Angeles that know Steve Soboroff's name is attached to hope, is attached to energy, and it is attached to many, many accomplishments. He will recommend a comprehensive city strategy for rebuilding and for expediting. Expediting is a very important word here. We want to expedite the safe return of residents, businesses, schools, nonprofits, and parks. So, Steve has agreed to give himself to Los Angeles once again. He knows our communities. He knows how to activate City Hall. He's been in City Hall several times, called to duty on different occasions, just as he's called to duty today. No one is better equipped to create our rebuilding plan, and I know, and anyone that knows Steve, knows that he works at warp speed. LA knows Steve, Steve knows LA, and I know Steve. He was the force behind the Staples Center. He built Playa Vista, an entire community from scratch. Moving the space shuttle, I don't know how you did that, but moving the space shuttle to the Science Museum, Steve knows how to lead the most complex city challenges, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. This rebuilding effort is not just about real estate, it's about the center of people's lives. It's about people's hopes and people's dreams. That's what a home is. I know that he will help lead us on a path forward. LA Strong, that's rebuilding LA. We will stand together. We will get this job done. Steve Soberoff.
Thanks, Mayor.
Absolutely. It's all yours.
People in LA are hurting. They're frustrated, like the mayor said. They're confused. They want to know what they can do today. They can't get back in their homes to find the pictures of their loved ones. And a whole lot of people are out of work as a community has been wiped off the face of the earth. And a community that's about 120 years old, I lived in it. My kids grew up in it for 40 years. But it's the same as every community in Los Angeles. And what we need is, and what I hope people will start with is today, is hope. There is an A to Z for each one of us. And A is today. And we're going to get there step by step. And the city is going to help to the extent it can. And we will have to outsource to the extent it can't. That there's going to be a bus to yes.
That's right.
And if people want to get on the bus with us, get on it. If they want to spend their time throwing embers right now and next Tuesday when it's windy by spending their time on that kind of stuff, just don't get on our bus. But we are going to move forward and recreate a community that if we close our eyes, it's like it's got a great park. It's got a great library. It's got great places of worship. It's got great restaurants. And I'm not talking about the quality of the food or the price points. I'm talking about the people that, I mean, it's emotional to me. The people that work there, that taught my kids how to speak Spanish, that have been there for generations, that now are on the verge of homelessness after working in a community for 40 years. That's why I'm doing this.
All right.
I want people to feel like we're going to tell them in the next week what they can start doing tomorrow to go to B and then to C. And people will be able to get the plans, permits, the equipment will be ready for them, and they can start building their houses. And I'm thankful, Mayor, for the contacts you've made with the state and with existing administration and the incoming administration about the future of getting the funds to do this, because we have people in this city that care so much about this city that all we need is people to hop on the bus with us.
That's right.
Because we're going to do that, and I'm happy to be involved for all of those people, and I want to see this community go back, because neighborhoods and communities are everything to people. The library, the park, the houses of worship. So let's do it.
We will. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take questions? Yes.
Coming in the bus is fine, but are you going to change some of the mechanisms of the bus that need changing? Will those executive orders include things like changes in construction codes so that homes are more fire resistant, not having as much density so that fires can spread from home to home? cutting back on your, if you want to call it, urban landscape that is there next to the homes, and finally reducing density. You lost a lot of homes up there. Are those code changes and are those policy changes going to come now before you start issuing plans and
Well, let me just tell you that what we are charging Mr. Soboroff with is developing this plan for rebuilding. We have executive directives that we are going to be issuing next week. We have to take all of that into consideration because we have to build in a way that we can harden the area for fires and make sure that we are a resilient community. Obviously, we need to look at building codes, we need to look at what was done in the past, and we need to come back stronger and build in a better way.
If
Thank
you
you.
have a home that was burnt down, it's a horrible thing. And the idea that you won't be able to rebuild your home, if you want to rebuild your home with the correct materials, although if your house was built out of concrete, in this fire, it would have lasted about an hour longer than it did. This was a this was a God event. But the idea of using this to decrease density, I think people deserve to rebuild their houses. I think people want to get back in there. Now, if they want to try and expand their house beyond a certain amount, that should open up a different way. But we're going to come up with a way for people to pull those permits and to get those inspections and to have that equipment to rebuild their lives. This is not an urban planning exercise.
Right.
This is a saving people's lives and family and the people that work for them and help them exercise.
Yes.
That we're turning the corners.
Yes, I did say that.
I've heard from numerous residents not placing blame on you, but they've been waiting to hear a response about their frustrations. Do you have anything to say to them who continue to be frustrated, not blaming you, but who say they are disappointed in your leadership?
Sure. You know, next week we will be announcing an investigation. We need to look back at everything that happened. But, you know, to me, over the last week, the most important thing was to get past the fires, to make sure that on Monday and Tuesday, we're not facing a danger again. And so I'll be looking forward to that. It will be external. It will not be done internally, although internally we absolutely are looking back at what happened, but moving forward so that we can get our city back on the road to where we were before, and not even where we were before, but how we will be much better.
You're having a town hall. Governor Newsom is having one on Sunday, but do you plan on having one?
I plan on having lots of those. I've always done that and will definitely continue to do that. I don't have one scheduled right now.
Mayor Bass, Mr. Westfall, Fox 11.
Go ahead.
Mayor Bass, a question for you. Do you plan on working with the Army Corps of Engineers to build a reservoir in the Sullivan Canyon flood control channel where the watershed ends at the catch basin and the water is distributed?
Well, let me just tell you that what we plan on doing absolutely is working with the Army Corps of Engineers, but not with what you just described. Yes.
Westfall with Fox 11. An AP review found that homes were already burning and escape routes jammed when the Palisades evacuation order came. Did the evacuation order come fast enough?
Well, I think we have a representative here from Fire. Would you like to answer that?
So I don't have the specifics on exactly what time the first evacuation order came out, but what I can say is when an incident first breaks, it takes some time for us to get our first resources on scene, evaluate the situation, look at maps, determine which areas need to be evacuated. Of course, in a fire of this magnitude, and our first on companies that were en route immediately asked for more resources just based on the amount of smoke that was going up into the air. We knew that there was going to be a very large evacuation area. LAPD, our law enforcement partners, were the first members of our department or of our city family to conduct those initial evacuations, and they're on scene very quickly while our firefighters are fighting the fire. you can imagine if you're in the immediate area, whenever a fire starts, you're going to get some indications that there's a fire heading your way, especially during these windy days when we've put out plenty of alerts to warn the public that we have that high fire hazard zones, red flag days, the parking restrictions. Everyone who lives in an area in Los Angeles that's subject to wildfires is well aware of the danger, as far as I could say. So the initial evacuations that have to go out via WIA alert, the wireless emergency alerts, as well as Notify LA and other alert systems, they do take some time to formulate because we have to be very specific on what we're saying. Obviously, those accidental alerts that went out are an indication of why we wouldn't just put a mass alert out to cause the entire county to start panicking. We do have to be very specific, but we do have resources on scene that are evacuating the initial areas. Our law enforcement partners are helping us with that, and then as soon as we can determine what areas need to be evacuated, those wireless emergency alerts and Notify LA alerts go out.
Guys, wait a second. We got to move forward so people can get back in their homes and back in the parks and back in their churches. Officer, come here for a second. I was police commissioner for 10 years. Well, my job, thank you for service, sir, no problem, was to adjudicate cases. And when you adjudicate a case of something that goes wrong or right, you need information. The worst thing you can do is spend all kinds of time and energy away from making things better in the future than just looking at the past. So I'm not going to get involved in that. I hope they find out everything. But it would take me on every case, 6 or 7 months. I'd get 700 pages of science. I'd get reports. This whole thing about, well, if you would have done this, and if you should have done that, and well, it didn't. And we can find out. But if you think that's going to help the people that are frustrated, that are about to be homeless because they lost their jobs, or are looking for a place for their kids to go, that ain't going to help them. That's why she asked me to come on, is to help them and move forward and give them hope. And if I'm not going to provide the adrenaline to this community with these people to and more people that we're going to bring, then I will fail. I'm going to fail.
But we know he is not going to fail. Yes.
Gavin Newsom has said he has a particular Marshall Plan.
Yes.
Building LA. I'm wondering, is that something you guys are working on doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely we are. I met with the governor yesterday for a good hour talking about all that. And so what you will see is you will see the plans, and what he's doing is on a regional basis. We will be working hand in glove together. And in fact, that has already started because the state has taken responsibility for clearing the hazardous waste. All of that is happening right now.
Guys, I spoke with Governor Davis today. I've spoken to a lot of people before I decided, to do this, and I'm sure you talked to a lot of people before you asked me.
Governor Davis too.
But he's gone through fires, and he said, Steve, think about the victims.
Yes.
Think about the victims.
The families.
This ain't the Steve Soboroff show or the Karen Bass for Mayor show. This is about the victims, and that's what we are doing. That's what we talk about in private.
Right.
We don't talk about anything else. It's about the victims. It's about restoring community, because without community, people are lost, and that's what we're going to focus on. I have a 10-point plan of what I'm going to start on the first day. I'm not going through that today. The mayor and I are going to be walking around in the Palisades, but we're not doing this for picture visibility. We're doing this for completion, because these people are desperate. I heard a lady yesterday with her little girl saying, honey, you're going to go back to school, and it's going to be your same classmates, which I thought was wonderful. And you know what? We are going to be in the car for an hour every morning instead of 7 minutes. So we're going to have so much fun. But the mother was so relieved. That is what we want people to feel starting 15 minutes from now. I'm not the czar. She is the czar. She isn't.
Two more questions. Yes.
Why isn't this an urban plan exercise? Shouldn't this be an opportunity to...
I can answer that.
No.
More of a fire resistant assistant city?
Well, we absolutely will be taking that. We want to make sure that when we build, we will build LA back stronger. We will build Palisades back stronger. And of course, we are going to, and it's not just Palisades. We know that there's many other areas. Mandeville Canyon we're concerned about. Sylmar. And so Sylmar, what is going on there. And it's absolutely an opportunity for us to make sure we build back better, which means that we want to have a resilient community. One more question?
If a homeowner came out to you and said, hey, I lost my home, when realistically will I be able to...
Are you the one that stole my phone? Because I got 50 of those messages today.
Well, yeah, let me just answer that. And I will tell you, I don't know if you've had an opportunity, but going to the Disaster Recovery Center, I met with people. I met with people there yesterday and the day before. I've talked to people who lost their homes, who were actually ready to rebuild, which I frankly thought was exciting, that they had reached the point where they wanted to do what was needed in order to get back up again. But what we've told them is, especially in terms of the evacuation area, we don't know exactly when it's going to be safe. Well, it is predicted maybe it's another week. It depends on what happens on Tuesday. And so we've asked them to have the patience because we don't want people going back before it is safe. So, building anything, even if there hadn't been a fire, you can't say exactly when you will be able to move back into your house.
A Genius Bar reservation system type way where people can know when they're going to be able to go in their house, and they're not going to be, and that we will make it safe for you instead of telling you you can't get in because it's not safe.
Exactly.
And so that's, that is one of the points. It's about the predictability so people can get back into their house, because that's just the first thing.
Right.
You've got to remove the toxic stuff from these houses before the communities can be bulldozed. And look, we are talking about urban planning. This is no time for urban planning exercising. That'll delay it by 15 years. We need people back in their houses. This happened to be, my Palisades friends aren't going to, if it was going to happen, that it happened in the Palisades, the planning of the Palisades is beautiful. The way the community works is beautiful. You don't need to rethink Pacific Palisades. You need to rebuild Pacific Palisades.
We are going to do everything we can to build LA back stronger, and to get people home so their hopes and their dreams can continue forward. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one thing I'm a little worried about? I'm worried about price gouging. Yeah. I'm worried about people who have lost hope and say, I'm just going to sell my lot now, my house burnt down. And I urge them, hang on, because we're going to create a system where they'll be able to re-permit and have a clean lot, and they'll be able to sell it for 10 times more. Don't be gouged now by professionals.
But we don't want them to sell. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, so you've been listening there to Mayor Karen Bass along with Steve Soboroff, and we'll get into what his role is there in a moment. But basically speaking about the rebuilding efforts, you are taking a live look, by the way. This is Sky Fox giving you a look at all the damage and destruction of the Pacific Palisades. The focus being that they are working on a plan to rebuild, but also emphasizing that safety comes first, and the priority is to make sure that when they do go back in there, everything is done in a safe manner.
The motto is LA Strong, Return and Rebuild, a major announcement there by Mayor Karen Bass. She named a chief recovery officer. That is Steve Soboroff. He is a Los Angeles-based businessman, philanthropist, and civic leader. Roxy, I worked with him regarding a housing program for LAPD recruits about a year or two ago. Very well known for building Playa Vista behind the Staples Center, as well, was a police commissioner. As the mayor said, he knows LA, and his thought there is to get people back into their homes. And that last statement to me was so telling, where he said, we want to get the permits going. If you've lost hope, don't lose hope. We want to get you back in your home. We want you to own your property and have your land back, and don't fall victim to the gouging that we fear in something like this.
Because gouging is going on, price gouging is going on, and the fear is that people's lands are so damaged and destroyed they might fall a victim to something. Because at this point they're helpless and tired, and it's understandable. It might seem it's easier to get rid of it and start afresh, and they're saying, wait, you know, we have a plan in place. Something that also caught my attention was both of their messages, but especially Steve Soboroff saying, you know what, we're focused on moving forward, either get on the bus, be a part of our team, or just, you know, move out of the way.
I can tell you, Soboroff knows everybody. He really knows LA inside and out. He knows the movers and shakers. His thought is today is about hope. It starts today. He said there is an A to Z. A is today, and as you mentioned, the bus to yes. If you want to get on the bus to yes to rebuilding LA and returning to LA to its greatness, he wants to be part of that journey with the mayor. I can tell you, he's been around a long time. Not sure he needs to take on this work or this job, but I think he's one of those guys who really loves Los Angeles and wants to be there for part of this.
And he's a recognizable figure, so I think many people who know him feel comfortable with his presence as well. Mayor also mentioning series of executive directives that she is working on, which we'll find out more next week and weeks that come.
Yeah, and Soboroff said he has a 10-point plan, did not outline that plan just yet, so a lot more to come. But as we head into the weekend, there is some hope there, I think, for people who are looking at this destruction and thinking, will I return? Can I return? When can I return to the home that I love, the community that I love? Steve Soboroff is now the Chief Recovery Officer.
All right, and thank you for being with us. We cut into the programming to bring you this news conference with the mayor. Again, Chief Recovery Officer announced, Steve Soboroff. Much more coming up at 4 o'clock for an early edition of Fox 11 News with Christine and Marla.
Yeah, we are an early